Come gather, good friends, come gather anew, not like the way we all used to do with a hug or a handshake, a cuddle or two, but on Skype or on Zoom and a meter or two. Between me and you, between me and you, the future is resting between me and you. Sickness and sorrow steals a good friend. Hunger and poverty hides round the bend. A time to be needing a friendship that's true. The future is resting between me and you, between me and you, between me and you. The future is resting between me and you. Times they are strange, but we must find a way to lift up our hearts and to face a new day. There's jokes and cartoons to lighten the strain, to go a bit mad or we'd all go insane. Between me and you, between me and you, the future is resting between me and you. At last there's a barber to get my hair cut. It's £25, the price has gone up. How much for a shave? Just £7, he said. All right, says I, just shave my head. His answer was no, and I thought with a smile, I suppose it just grows on you after a while. Between me and you, between me and you, the future is resting between me and you. So hard for to know just what to believe. There's news that is true and there's news to deceive. But I'll wash my two hands when I come and I leave, and I'll still wear a mask and sneeze in my sleeve. Between me and you, between me and you, the future is resting between me and you. Good God of Almighty forgives all the time. Humans forgive just some of the time. Nature forgives but never forgets. It takes what we give and it gives what it gets. Between me and you, between me and you, the future is resting between me and you. So good friends and companions, be safe and be true. Friendship and love is the best we can do. The virus of hatred has not gone away. We all need each other to show us the way. Between me and you, between me and you, the future is resting between me and you, between me and you, between me and you. The future is resting between me and you. Thank you very much indeed. You're very welcome. A happy Halloween to you. I'm here in the middle of the forest in Rostrevor, and very Halloween weather, and why wouldn't it be? If you're going to have Halloween weather, you may as well have it at Halloween. The leaves change in colour and teaching us the art of dying beautifully. And of course they'll be up in no time. Again, like the rest of us maybe, you never know. But I was just coming up through the village there, and maybe the best way to say Happy Halloween is through the little stones, the coloured stones that the children of all ages have put along the edge of the Fairy Glen, and reminding us of Halloween. Actually, Halloween is an Irish feast. It went to America. It's a Celtic feast, and it went to America and it spread all around the world after that. And you see the odd skeleton in the middle of it all, because Halloween is actually the end of the old year and the beginning of the new year. So it's a very important feast in the Celtic calendar. And it's that time of the year when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. And that great division between the great spiritual enlightened world and our little confused one comes closer together if we keep our ears, our eyes, or some of those things tuned in. We're going to sing a song in a minute or two. It's a song about Halloween. It's called the Caille. What's a Caille, says you? Well, I grew up on a small farm. I grew up between the horse and the tractor, in the sense that when the horse died, we couldn't afford to buy a tractor. So my father did most of the work by hand, dug the spuds with a spade, mowed with a scythe, and we would come behind him, gathering it into shaves or sheaves, then into stooks, then into shigs, then into a stack, and then McConville, the thresher man, would come round and separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. But the very last few strands of corn that was left standing, it was plaited into a plait like a woman's hair, a plaiting woman's hair. And indeed, I'm nearly on my own nowadays, my God, if I had one. But this was the Caille, the spirit of the harvest. Caille means, it's an Irish word, it means the veiled one. It's come to mean old woman, but it's really the veiled one. And she would come to sweep away all the bad things of the old year and prepare for the new year. So we are preparing for a new year when hopefully a lot of those terrible things of the last months and year or two will fade into another place. And we're going to sing the song, it's called the Caille, and we're going to join a virtual song. I've already sung it, to be honest. There's no point in telling you a lie. I've sung it a few years back with my daughter Maya, my son Finan, and Bruce Foley from Pittsburgh at the Pumpkin Festival in upstate New York with a wonderful man called Pete Seeger. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. But before we sing that song, Pete will give a version of a wonderful, beautiful Irish melody. Lots of words have been put to it down through the years. But Pete decided to hum it instead, and you can imagine all the words because even more words come through in the humming sometimes. You will recognize it immediately, so you can get ready to hum.
Ready? song is about the Cailleach coming at Halloween, which is Samhain in the Irish language, and it's the beginning of the new year and the end of the old year. This is a very special time. And there's a chorus in the song. This Cailleach would come, she was a woman, and she would brush away all the bad things of the old year and leave the place shining bright for the new year. In the key of E minor. But the chorus goes like this. And what singers you are, my goodness, Pete Seeger has you well trained. Hallelujah, hallelujah. That's all you have to sing. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Racing down the bushes from the wild wind blows. Hallelujah, hallelujah. That's away your troubles and your cares and woes. Up she comes when the sun goes down and the golden grain is falling. Her locks are like the stalks of corn, and I can hear her calling. She will cry her lullaby and let the summer go, and she'll dance when the north wind blows. Hallelujah, hallelujah, pushing on the bushes when the wild wind blows. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Dance away your troubles and your cares and woes. Seven times she's been a child, and every time more tender. 7 times she's been a bride to fire, earth and thunder. 7 times a mother to the sweetest flower that grows, and she'll dance when the north wind blows. Hallelujah, hallelujah, pushing on the bushes when the wild wind blows. Hallelujah, hallelujah, that's the way your troubles and your cares and woes. Away your tears and fears, we need that pain no longer. Anger and begrudgery are like stones upon your shoulder. To hold you up and to wave you down, it's time to let them go, and to dance when the north wind blows. Hallelujah, hallelujah, pushing in the bushes and the wild wind blows. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
nations. Head of Decca took one look at me. He says, "Ah, I know these guys. They're not commercial." Walked out. But Gordon said, "I'll get you on my next session." And the record we made, Goodnight Irene, was the biggest hit since World War II. There'd been no record since World War II that stayed up number one, week after week after week for 3 months in the summer of 1950. You couldn't escape the song. I was in a jukebox, just a diner, and the jukebox was playing it, and some guy said, "Turn that song off, I've heard it 50 times today." And the Weavers had a short career. The reason was we were surprised that we suddenly had a hit record, but you know who was even more surprised? That a bunch of McCarthyite blacklisters. How did we let those so-and-so slip through our fingers? And they started chopping us down that very summer. We were offered a big contract, a nationwide TV program. We signed it. A week later after the attack, they did not sign it. They forgot about it. Second year, we were not getting such good jobs. And the third year, we were getting just silly little jobs. And as Lee said, we took a sabbatical. It turned into a Mondacle and a Tuesdacle. I was hauled up before what they called the Un-American Activities Committee. I said, "Do you have a right to your opinion? I got a right to my opinion, period." "Mr. Seeger, that is not a sufficient answer." Well, I think I shrugged, and that made him more angry. 5 years later, I was sentenced to 10 years in jail, 10 counts at least, 1 year in jail for each, served simultaneously. I was sitting there waiting for the lawyer to get bail for me, and a man next to me was eating his lunch, a little sandwich. See, "If that judge believes what I say, I'll be leaving for home today." The guy next to him says, "Not if he sees your record, you won't."
Actually, your great-grandmother came from Ireland at one time?
I had a grandfather born on the Hudson River, and his father was a Yankee from Vermont, and his mother was from Belfast. Nelson was her name. She must have had some Scandinavian in her, Nielsen. But I have another song, you know, "There were no red-headed Irishmen till the Vikings landed in Ireland."
That's a great song. All mixed up.
My great-grandmother, I never met her, but they said she had second sight. And the sad but true story was, one morning she says to her husband, "Please don't go to work." He was in charge, he ran a factory making boilers, steam boilers. She said, "I dreamed that something terrible was going to happen." He said, "My dear, I can't not go to work. There's things that have to be done. I can't stay home simply because you had a bad dream." In the middle of the morning, she hears boom. And an hour later, workmen brought her his hand with a wedding ring on it, all that could be identified. He and a group of other workmen had all been blown up while testing a boiler.
Well, I'm very happy to meet up with probably one of the most famous priests in all of Ireland, although with a shrug he would dismiss that. Father Brian Darcy, you have created a whole new clerical constituency by bringing the light down from the high altar into the shady ballroom corners. When did all that begin?
It's like everything else, Tommy, in life. Most things begin bit by bit. And they grow organically, as they say now, though I never knew what that meant. Organically to me was my father setting cabbage with a barrel load of horse manure along the side. That was the only organic thing I ever knew, and that was real organic.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there for a moment and stay there, because that's the place where it all began. And you travelled to many a place and influenced many people in so many different ways, including the creation of one Father Ted. And I'd like to talk to you about that after a while. But where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little village called Ballinalek. It's about 5 miles outside Enniskillen. Or really, when I'm in my more philosophical days, I say Enniskillen is 5 miles from Ballinalek. Our Protestant neighbours would come down to my mother on the 12th of July and say, will you take the children while we go to the march? And my mother would have all the children, we'd all be out playing in the field outside our house. And Daddy would do the milking for George Lee, so that George Lee could go to the 12th of July. And then in return for that, George Lee they give us the loan of the tractor so that we could cut the few acres of land that we had for the hay. And it was, it was unspoken. It was lovely. It was brilliantly done. And then, of course, from about the beginning of July to the middle of August, we withdrew, sort of thing. We withdrew, and Protestants took over, and they took the marching bands up and down the road, and and nobody said anything about it. It just, that was it. And before that, the Ballinalek would be in the championship and in the league, and after that to be in the championship, and then we'd take over then after they stopped, and we shared the countryside brilliantly. And Cahill became the vagrant musician. Boys of the Loch, and the wonderful flute player, and he was always, and Cahill was even better than a dog for telling you where the rabbits were. He had a sixth sense, and the dog would come out of a brand of bushes, and we'd say, there's no rabbits. Cahill say, no, and he used to do that with us, when he'd suck his nails, and he'd say, no, I think there's a rabbit in there. I don't think we should leave it. And we said it's very sensitively and quiet. Yes. And you'd put the dog in, and 9 times out of 10, the dog would come out of the rabbit. Cahill was right. He had that beautiful sense. And the priest said to me, what age are you? And I said 15. And he said, did you ever think of becoming a priest? And I said, no. And he said, why? I said, well, I'd rather play football, and I like music. Well, he says, you could still play football and like music and be a priest,